Hey guys, what's up? It's Will here once again for some fight predictions. I'm here for some quick picks for UFC on ESPN 48. Sean Strickland against Abus Magomedov is our main event this week. And I'm back after a little bit of a break. I've been super busy. Life's been in the way, got in the way. Daughter's birthday, you can probably see some cards behind me. I'm doing some other things which I can't really say at the minute. Regarding family. So, just life's got in the way. I'm going to try and get back into a regular state of getting predictions out. But, I'm going to give you some quick picks on this. And I'm not going to try and take too much of your time and get into this here. Like, comment, subscribe. You know, all that helps. If you can do that, it'd be much, much appreciated. First up, Alexander Romanov against Blagoy Ivanov in the heavyweight division is our first fight of the night. And I am going to pick. Let me just come out of this. Sorry. There we go. Get into this better. There we are. This is more like it. Not giving away my picks on the side there. Yeah, Alexander Romanov, Blagoy Ivanov. Romanov looked he looked terrible last time out, if we're being honest with you. He looked very, very bad. You can see here in Topology, 2,000 picks, 70% going with Alexander Romanov there. And I'm kind of on the fence with this one for the simple reason I want to see what Romanov looks like on the scales, because I think if you get the svelte looking Romanov, you'd be more kind of happy putting your money on a guy like that than the 265-pound guy who showed up last time against Alexander Volkov and looked atrocious. Now, I've never been the biggest admirer of Alexander Romanov. I faded him against Tybura. I got plus 350 in Tybura there, perfect. I tried against Juan Espino. I thought he was on his way to losing that one. And Blagoy, like I say, he's just like a concrete wall. He's a guy that's always going to be there. Former champion in previous organizations, never the best guy to look good against, tough as nails. So I'm waiting to see how this kind of plays out on the scales on Friday when it comes with it, seeing what he looks like, if he's just in better condition. But Blagoy, underdog odds, if he's not been training for this fight, if it hasn't took it serious, I think Blagoy is not a bad dog play at plus 115, plus 120. I would maybe be able to kind of take a shot on that, but I'm kind of leaning on the Romanov side. I just don't see him coming back looking as bad as what he did last time out. But in saying that, he has to get the fight to the ground because his striking is poor, like very, very poor for a high kind of caliber athlete that's in the UFC. It's not good at all. But if he gets the fight to the ground, gets to that top position where he can put all that weight on you, he is a very, very, very tough guy to get off. But sometimes even when he gets to those positions, he doesn't finish. I'm going to lean Romanov, not super confident. And like I said, I'm ready to see what it looks like on the scales come Friday, tomorrow. Ivana Petrovic against Luana Carolina. I'm a little bit familiar with Ivana for the simple reason she came up through the Cage Warriors amateur scene and she fought a couple of girls there's a girl that's moved her way into the UFC. There's a girl you should keep an eye on. So she beat Melissa Dixon, who's a girl that I believe has just been signed to the UFC, and you'll probably see her very, very shortly. And there's a girl called Chanel Dyer, or Chantel Dyer, I think it is. I think Chanel. What was one of them? I can't remember the name off the top of my head. And Chantel is one to really kind of keep an eye on going forward, because I think she's fairly decent. I think she fights out over in the PFL. Now she's been signed. She's came through the Aries fight promotion in France, and I watched the Aries events, and they're pretty decent, well-run organization and events as well. Her striking is nothing to kind of look at. I don't think she's all that good. I don't think she can take a shot that well. I think where she wants to win this fight is getting the fight to the ground, getting that top position. But even then, I just don't even think she's a good wrestler, a good striker, at least on the Carolina side. A lot of UFC experience. She's took her lumps. She's shown us some good takedown defense in some fights. I think it was the Godinez fight where Lupe does what she does, tries to get you down numerous occasions, and I think she only got her down 2, maybe 3 times. And like I said, I've actually went and bet Luana Carolina at plus 180. I think there's a really good style matchup. Petrovic, like I say, I think she's got some path to victory if she can continuously get takedowns and be high on top. But like I say, on the feet, I think she's going to get pieced up a little bit. There's been a couple of times I've seen her dropped. There was an elbow. There was like I think it was like an Aljamain Sterling or Marlon Moraes, type knockout or knockdown, I should say, where he's kind of going in and the knee kind of catches her and puts her down. So I have seen her dropped, and Carolina is long and far more vast on the feet than what Petrovic is. So Luana Carolina, plus odds the way they were, that was an easy bet for me to make. And like I say, betting women's MMA is hard at the best of times, but I think it's a good style matchup for her. I think she will have advantages in this one, so I'm going to pick Carolina, potentially via TKO in the late part of this fight, but I like her to win that fight. Guram Kutateladze against Elves Brenner. Elves coming off a really good win over Zabara Tuhugov in his UFC debut, where he was a massive underdog, and he looked good in that fight. He really did. He faces off here against Guram Kutateladze, a guy that I've always really wanted to like, but it's never really. I don't know what it is. I know it's just because he pulls out a lot of fights. He has a lot of issues getting into certain countries, but he's got a lot of skill, and obviously the UFC are trying to make fights for him. He's just not getting there. But when he gets to these fights, he's getting tough fights like Mateusz Gamrot, Damir Ismagulov. They guys are top 15, top 20 guys. Ismagulov, I think, has been in the rankings before, so top 15 guys. And he's gave a great account on himself, and he's very, very good across all areas and very, very tough. His betting line is massive, minus 400. I actually think it's well higher than that now. I've not looked at it. I like him in this spot here. I think Brenner's a solid guy. He's going to win UFC fights. I just think that Guram's a little bit more well-rounded. I think he's going to win by decision, and I think that Guram, it'd be nice to see kind of Guram back, because when was the last time we fought? Just coming on to a year, so he only really fights once a year. He's only fought a couple of times in his UFC tenure, and it's coming on 3 years. But Guram by decision is my pick in that one there. Yana Santos against Karol Rosa. Aline Karol Rosa. Yana is very, very hittable. I don't think she's got a hell of a lot of power. She just throws a lot of leg kicks, tries to push you back towards the cage push a little bit, and tries to kind of do a majority of her work on the cage, in the clinch. I don't think that's really going to be much of an issue here for someone like Rosa. I think Rosa's kind of turned around a little bit, for the simple fact when she came into the UFC, I thought she looked really good, a lot of high output, and it's kind of reined back a little bit as she's went up. Wins, these are not big wins. Jocelyn Edwards, Betch Cahia, Lena Landsberg, they're not high caliber wins. Norma Dumont, she lost, even though she put Norma down, her backside there. And Sarah McMahon, she lost there, where I think she was a pretty big favourite, because I'm sure I bet McMahon in that one there. And like I say, I've never been overly a big admirer of Yana Santos. I think that Karol Rosa, if she can keep her back off the cage, not get caught up in kind of grappling tendencies in this fight, and really stay at distance, pot shot a little bit, just have the more volume. And I think Yana's, she wears a lot of the strikes that she gets hit with elbows, and so she busts up fairly, so she gets bloody fairly easily. So for me, I'm going to take Karol Rosa, another decision win there. That line, I think it's minus 160, minus 170 over here in the UK. It's not a bad line, but I don't really want to play it. I've already got a bet down a women's fight, and I'm not going to really bet chalk there. So, but I've got Rosa for the win. Joanderson Brito against Westin Wilson. Joanderson Brito's going to smash this guy. The only thing that he's got is massive. Like, he's big for the division, and he's fairly decent on the ground. But I just think this guy's got everything and more for him in this spot here. And he's got a couple of really good wins. File, Lucas Alexander, really solid wins, with his only loss coming to Belalgio in that one there. Liam's pick fights. Go and watch that guy. He does really good fight breakdowns. So yeah. Yeah, I'm going to pick Joanderson Brito. I don't think this gets out the first round. I actually think now the UFC have done a fairly good job with bringing some good guys into the UFC. And I put this out on Twitter yesterday, predominantly with the flyweight division. They brought in Josh Javan. I'm a massive fan of Josh Javan. If you watched my video earlier on in the year about the guys the UFC should sign, Josh Javan was in my notable mentions list that I think they should sign and could sign this year. Comes in and beat Zalgas last week. But again, I don't think this guy should even be near the Dana White Contender Series. That says everything. Brito's going to smash this guy, and I'd be very surprised if it gets into round number 2. Official pick, submission. Kevin Lee makes his return to the UFC against Rinat Fakhretdinov in the welterweight division. I mean, Kevin Lee's a very, very notable name and actually one of the nicest guys to actually talk fights with, be around. His energy is... it's just, he's got a really good energy to be around. I've been around him a few times. I've been around him in Vegas. He was a guest fighter over here in Scotland when they had the show in Glasgow. And he's just a really, really solid guy. But I think his time, honestly, he's only 30, coming 31 years old. I think his time has passed as being a kind of elite kind of level fighter, in my opinion. I just think that he's taken some L's. Rafael dos Anjos, Charles Oliveira, Daniel Rodriguez, that win over Diego Sanchez. I'm not going to write too much into that. I think that was more the injury that really made him perform that way, but he still won pretty convincingly, in my opinion. And his win over Gregor Gillespie, that's an all-time kind of highlight reel, UFC highlight reel bit that they have there. Very, very solid in every aspect. Decent striking, good jiu-jitsu, good wrestling. I just think Rinat's going to have the pressure to break this guy. And once he breaks him, I think he's going to have some top time. I think he's going to get numerous takedowns. I would be worried if maybe Lee got into a position where he could scramble, reverse position, get to the back. I think he's an elite back taker. I think if he gets you down there, he can take you out. And I've seen some love for him. That number there, I don't think it's the worst dog shot. I just think Rinat's going to have far too much for him. I think he's the better overall grappler. And this guy can also go on the feet, sling some bombs, and crush you with some of his strikes. I've parlayed Rinat. I got him at minus 200. I've got him with another guy coming on very, very shortly, I believe, on the card there. I'm actually really happy that Kevin Lee's back, because if we could get Kevin Lee at his ultimate potential, the guy is, in my opinion, at least a top 10 guy at welterweight. But I'm just not convinced that everything is back in motion where he's going to push himself to be in that top guy again. Like I say, he fought for an interim title, fought some good guys, and he's been around for a hell of a long time. I actually think I met this guy way back in 2014 when I was over in Vegas. I was in the Cosmopolitan going to Invicta fights, and I'm sure he had a fight on very, very soon, kind of after. I think it was maybe the week after. And it's just the coolest guy, and every time I've met him, he's just been a good guy. So I'm going to pick Rinat via late stoppage or decision in that one there. We've got Nursulton Raziboev against Bruno Ferreira. I'm not sold on this dude here. I mean, he's big. He's got a lot of really good submissions on his record. He attacks things really, really quickly. Not beat the most competent of of people out there. I mean, 15-2 is all right, I suppose. 20-10, that's a lot of experience to be beaten. But for me, I just think that, I mean, he's coming in very short notice here. What did I say? Is he 6'4"? He's a big dude. 6'4", yeah. Against a kind of low, stocky guy. And Bruno Ferreira here, 10-0 undefeated guy. He went to the UFC, knocked out Gregory Rodriguez with a massive, massive shot in the feet. I'm just not sold in this Raziboev guy. I think his record's very padded. I think his opposition's not been great, except for a couple of instances. I think he can be taken down. I've seen him on his back numerous times, flat on his back. He will find ways to kind of move into position and then get his submissions like he's prone to do. I think he's got like 30-odd stoppages in his 34 wins. But for me, I like Bruno Ferreira in many aspects. I think he can take him down. I think he can hit him with some big, big shots. So ultimately, I'm taking Bruno Ferreira here. I also bet him with Rinat. Minus 200. I think it's plus 130. I've gotten that parlay like that. I think if I can get through the Rinat fight, I think this is one that Brunno can look his number and more. It's minus 220, it says there. I think it's probably round about that over here in the UK now. I'm just not kind of sold on this guy, but I could be proved wrong. I'm going to take Bruno Ferreira in that one there. Benoit Saint Denis against Ismael Bonfim. I wanted to come in here and bet Saint Denis, but when I sat back and tried to fade this guy last time out against Terence McKinney. I thought McKinney minus 110. I thought he had wrestling there. I thought he had some very dangerous striking. And this guy blew McKinney out the water. Looked super impressive. Him and his brother looked like real good fighters. And I knew that because I seen him come through the Contender Series. I seen them on the Brazilian regional circuit. That's a circuit I do like to keep a close eye on and on fighters coming through. And Saint Denis, I mean, he gave us an absolute brawl in Paris last year, going back to Paris this year, which I'm really looking forward to for the Cyril Gane Spivak card. But that fight with Miranda, he was getting kind of hit up a little bit. Miranda's a really fun fighter to watch, and he was giving his all in that fight and looking really good. But this guy's a bit of a Terminator. He took that L against Lipski and Santos. That fight should have been stopped, but he's shown he can take an absolute beating and still try and come in and be competitive on a 2-fight win streak. Like I say, that's Stolze one I'm not taking too much away from, because Stolze, I think, is very low level, not UFC caliber. And I wanted to come into this one looking at this number here. And like I say, if you're a better, you play some numbers. I thought this guy could make this fight close enough to where he could win a decision. When I see this, I think Bonfim is he's far too clean on the feet. I think he might get taken down, but I can see him working his way back up. And ultimately, I think his striking is just going to be the biggest benefit that he's got in this one, where he lands more, he'll stop takedowns, he'll not be put into compromising positions. So for me, I'm going to pick Ismael Bonfim. I think that he could land a big shot at any time and hurt Denis, but he's shown that he is very tough to stick around. But Bonfim is going to be my pick in that one there. Ariane Lipski against Melissa Gatto. This line has went kind of haywire a little bit, where all the action seems to be on the Gatto side. She was minus 160, I want to say, on Sunday over here. And now I don't even know what the line could be, but like I say, it's probably saying that line's not over here anymore. Lipski looked, like I say, I've been talking about Lipski for the longest time because I watched KSW and she came through KSW and she wrecked a load of girls in KSW, but I kind of got that, let the hype get to me a little bit when she made her UFC debut, and I don't think she's looked that great. I'm hoping now, after that last performance against JJ Aldridge, that hopefully she's starting to turn around and we're starting to see a kind of different Ariane Lipski. She moved herself out of the American Top Team gym, went to, I think it's the Lioness team, which is Amanda Nunes' team, and it looks like she got more specialized one-to-one tuition, whatever you want to call it, training, and it really helped her kind of go up in that fight against JJ Aldridge and cash herself as a big underdog. And I had a feeling going into that fight that could be a good fight for her. And I thought she fought amazingly well. But what we've seen is that her tendencies, or bad tendencies, is to get taken down and be hurt once someone has some kind of heavy kind of power on the ground, or even just getting to better positions where they can come in there and just really put a beating on her. And like I say, she's coming off a loss, Gatto, to Tracy Cortez, where Tracy was just getting her wrestling off. I just seen that Tracy's got a matchup confirmed for September against Jasmine Jastovicius, which I quite like her in that fight, honestly. But she came in there, Sajara Eubanks, big stoppage. Victoria Leonardo, big stoppage, snapped her arm there. Karol Rosa, this is going back like 4 years ago. I think she was on the sauce at that point, and that's why there was a big gap there, like 3 years. But these Brazilian chicks, man, both Brazilian. I wanted to, before I kind of looked into it a little bit, I wanted to really maybe have a look at Lipski, but the way I watched Gatto there, if she keeps us on the feet, I think she can hurt her. If she gets her to the ground, I think she's going to have her way with her. So I'm going to take Melissa Gatto. I think she can possibly get a stoppage in this one here. Max Griffin against Michael Morales. I like this fight, and I've took a bet on this guy, Max Griffin. And I'm not taking anything away from this guy, Michael Morales, because I do think he's a very solid talent. Say 23, 24, just turned 24. Kid's got a lot to like. I just think this guy, in my opinion, is not looked out of sorts in the UFC outside the Colby Covington fight. Yes, he's got a loss there against Neil Magny. Magny in those close fights seems to win every time. I bet him a couple of weeks ago against Phil Rowe, or last week, whenever it would have been. And he just does enough that the judges like what he does. Max Griffin has never looked out of his comfort zone in the UFC outside the Colby Covington one. He's never looked outclassed. Now, there are some things that I don't like. The fact that he's 37, becoming 38. But there are some things where I think that I see Morales get hit up a little bit by Adam Fugic last time. I've seen him being put in his back for a couple of minutes at times, in that, I think, in that fight as well. And he is still young. He is still making big improvements. The fact that he's not fought in 10 months could be a massive thing from where he comes back. And with these young guys, they can look like completely different fighters. And this could be a possibility here, be a big possibility. But you're going from like this guy, Trevin Giles, who's a solid UFC fighter, Adam Fugic, I think he's barely a UFC fighter, to a guy who I think is a very solid fighter, who's a hard guy to look good against, and I think can make rounds very, very close. And to me, I bet him at plus 215 earlier on today. I just think that line's off. Like I say, I took a 1 unit sprinkle on him, plus 215. This guy could come out here, put some beating on him and hurt him a little bit. But Max Griffin is known for dropping guys as well. I like this kid a lot. I really do. I think he's a guy you need to keep an eye on going forward in the welterweight division. But this could be this big jump up against a super solid guy who's very hard to look good against and fights close. So I've took the shot on Max Griffin in this one here. I think that I think he's very live to win this fight if he doesn't get caught with a big shot. So Max Griffin for me via probably a very, very close split decision there. Co-main event of the night, we've got Damir Ismagulov against Grant Dawson, a really good co-main event in the lightweight division. Two guys, I think Dawson's actually ranked at 15, and Ismagulov, like I mentioned before, it has been really good fight. There was a lot about this guy for the simple fact he said he retired. From what I'm hearing, it really wasn't a big thing. I think it was a spur-of-the-moment thing that he said after that loss to Sarukian 5 months ago. There was some health issues, but I don't think there were overly big health issues. This is the fight here which is really interesting me, because we've seen this guy taken down. Sarukian got him down like 4 or 5 times. But Sarukian, in my opinion, is a top 3 fighter in that division. At least I actually think he can beat Islam Makhachev, but I'm a Sarukian fanboy, and I have been since the minute he went to the UFC. I bet him against Makhachev way back when he came into the UFC many years ago. So if you're looking at skills here and how they're going to win the fight, he has to stop takedowns, because Dawson is going to be relentless at getting takedowns and getting to the back. Like I say, I think his control on the ground is some of the best in the UFC. He did it to an Olympic wrestler last time out against Madsen, get a finish there. Jared Gordon got the finish there. But his striking is non-existent. So if Damir can keep this on the feet and really, he will outstrike him, because the striking is not there on the Dawson side. Super tough though, will always be stuck around, hard to really take out of the fight. He is going to look for takedowns, and I've seen a lot of action on this guy. I've had 5 people separately come and ask me about they think Grant Dawson is the better, the weak underdog odds. I'm not going to say I disagree, but I just think this guy's a super, super tough guy to face. He's a hard kind of style matchup. But if Grant can get takedowns, he will get numerous minutes of control, in my opinion, and probably win rounds through that. But for me, I'm going to side on the Damir Ismagulov side. I think he's going to stop rounds to where I think he can make these rounds close. The output might just tip him over the edge in this fight. So I've got him to be a very, very close split decision. But if he gets taken down on numerous occasions, the fight's going to be done. It's going to be on the side of Dawson, in my opinion. But I like Damir in this one to win a close fight. If I was to get him at minus 110, if I could get him at plus money, I might even still jump in at minus 110, honestly. I'm going to take Damir in that one there. And the co-main event, and the main event, I should say, co-main event, Sean Strickland against Abus Magomedov. This one's a weird one to me. I'm just like, What do the UFC see in this Abus Magomedov? And also, I don't understand. This line's not right. Over here in the UK, he's minus 130. I'm like, what? Why is that number so low? Because I honestly, I don't particularly rate this guy all that much. Like you say, it's only, I know it's 4.5 years ago, but this guy got starched by a left hook in 48 seconds against Lewis Taylor. We never ever seen Lewis Taylor again after he won his money. Fair play to him. And then he went back against the 0-0 guy, got his confidence back there. This is not a bad win. Sazek, I think he's 13-3 now. That's a solid win. Then he comes in against Dustin Stolfus. I tried to fade him there. I thought I took the shot plus 200 when he fought in Paris last year. He came out there and obviously starched him very, very quickly. And outside of him hurting Strickland early, which we have seen, he got knocked out by Alex Pereira. Like I say, his fight IQ is sometimes not that good. He came forward and kind of walked into that shot of Alex Pereira. You just don't do that. And Abus is showing that he can knock guys out with singular strikes. He can hurt you and then follow up and take you out. But for me, if this plays the long game, I think Sean Strickland, in my opinion, and now like I say, my opinion means jack to anybody but myself. I think this guy Strickland should be minus 200 and higher. I'm seeing people asking me again about Abus, and like I said, it's a massive jump from these fights here and Dustin Stolfus to a guy who is a top 10 guy in the middleweight division, a guy with numerous co-main events, main events, fought decent guys. Like, you look at all these guys, they're not bad at all. Former champions, title challengers. I just think Sean Strickland's going to have his way with him if he doesn't get caught with something early. What to do is just come out, have some volume in the early rounds, try and be defensive if you can. Don't rush forward and kind of eat a shot from Abus Magomedov. And once this goes into 2, 3, 4, 5, I think the volume wears on him. I think he can clinch up a little bit. Not that I don't think he does that, because I think he fights silly sometimes. But for me, I think I'm going to bet Sean Strickland. And I've been burned by him before. I can't remember what fight it would have been. But like I say, he's minus 130 over here, and the line seems to be coming down. So I think I'm probably going to end up betting Sean Strickland. I might even look at the bet that I made last week with Topuria, which I bet Topuria at plus 450 in rounds 4, 5 a decision. I think it's like plus 140 for that over here in the UK. I still think that's fairly decent. I think that goes into the fourth round at a high clip if he doesn't get knocked out. So for me, I'm going to take Sean Strickland to win that fight there. I'm going to take via a late stoppage, actually, rounds 4 or 5. I think that he gets this guy out of there just due to his output. If not, I think he wins a fairly lopsided decision, in my opinion. So Sean Strickland for the win there, guys. So that's my quick picks for quickish picks. I've been here for half an hour. For UFC on ESPN 48. Yeah, I think this is actually a really solid card. Last week was a super solid card. I'm looking to, like I say, I'm sorry I've not been around the last couple of weeks. Just kids, birthdays, work, you name it. It's just really, really hard to really get myself kind of locked into these and have time, because I'm up at like 4 a.m. in the morning and back to bed late at night. Had the kids, like I say, I'm making excuses, but it is what it is. Good to see some of you guys in the chat there. I can see free UFC bets, Marcus Mustard, Alexandra, let's go. And I see Adam Beanie Smith there. I have seen that. I think it's a really fun podcast. It's always nice to hear some fellow Scots talking as well. So, guys, if you're still here at the end there, throw a like on the video. It'd be great for me. Until next week, guys, I'll be back. Enjoy the card. I hope you cash your bets. Peace.